Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at Bet Boxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. I've already uploaded one video today. It was the breakdown of Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Tank, of course, came out on top in the 6th round. I uploaded that in the morning, a bit of Sunday morning entertainment for you guys. I'm uploading this one in the evening, trying to split the entertainment between the days, keep your Sundays going. And if not, and you see this on Monday on the way to work, that's all good too. Let's talk about Joe Cordina and his victory over Shavkat Rakhimov. We're also going to talk about Martin Bakole and a little bit of a beef he had with Dillian Whyte, and also Ben Shalom's calls to get him in the ring against Deontay Wilder following his latest performance. We'll discuss that as well. First and foremost, let's start off with Shavkat Rakhimov falling at the hands of Joe Cordina. He ended up losing his title on a split decision. One judge had it 116-111 to Rakhimov, which I thought was a ludicrous scoreline in a fight where he was dropped and hurt on numerous occasions. And the other two judges much more fairly had it 115-112 and 114-113. Despite that, not everybody thinks that this was a fair scorecard. Egis Klimas, who is of course also the manager of Alexander Usyk, put out a pretty outlandish tweet in my opinion. He was saying that they forgot who the champion is and that these are sneaky little tricks, but sometimes it works, as you can see, and that this is why good fighters don't want to come to the UK to fight, as there is a fear of poor decisions and to get effed by the promotion and the commission. Quite frankly, this is a ludicrous statement from Egis Klimas because, like I said, the only unfair scoreline was the one in favour of Rakhimov. And in addition to that, you're talking about they forgot who the champion is. This idea of you have to take the titles off the champ, this is a myth. There's no such thing that provides a champion with an automatic head start. If you win 7 rounds, you win the fight. Now, I had Cordina winning the fight 7 rounds to 5. Even if you had it 6-6, for instance, Cordina knocked him down. So he did enough for me. I had him 7-5 plus the knockdown. I don't mind if you had it Rakhimov 7-5, for instance. It was a close and competitive fight. But to sit there saying this is why fighters don't come to the UK, leave it out, I guess. Now, in terms of how the fight played out, you could see that they were two very contrasting styles. You've got a guy like Rakhimov who is a real pressure cooker type of fighter. We know that pressure bursts pipes, and that's what he seeks to do. Put it on you, go to the body, incessant, relentless, hurtful shots, and he seeks to wear you down until you wilt in the latter half of the fight. On the other hand, you've got Joe Cordina, a decorated amateur, who's a wonderful boxer puncher. Real technique there. He's got some real skills there. He's been looking at Vasyl Lomachenko for a number of years. He sort of analyzes him. I think he's a bit of a hero of his, and he's tried to copy his footwork. And in some moments, there is a hint of Vasyl there in the way he steps around an opponent, but there's a lot more than just the athleticism to be able to step around an opponent to do what Vasyl Lomachenko does. And there are some things that he didn't do as well. He didn't execute it as well. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But in addition to all of that, apart from the technical aspects, because there were some really good technical aspects there from Joe Cordina, there was also some tactical problems there. There were choices that he was making that I didn't agree with. I felt that he made the fight harder for himself than he should have made it. First and foremost, Rakhimov does like to have that high guard, and he comes in, he leans over that front foot at times, and he's just trying to walk you down. He knows he doesn't have the reflexes to be the sort of fighter who's going to start slipping shots and bringing out pull counters and stuff. So he's almost willing to take shots in order to get off his own, and he seeks to bring about a war of attrition. So when you're Joe Cordina, if he's forcing you into those situations the way he was with Zelfa Barrett, say, Barrett started very well against Rakhimov too, then I sort of understand if you're struggling with a certain skill set to be able to deal with that. If you don't have the arsenal, you don't have the particular virtues that fighter needs to be able to overcome that. I get it, but that doesn't apply to Joe Cordina. At points, he was staying in the pocket in front of Rakhimov immediately after carrying out his own work. And I'm sitting there thinking, Joe, why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. You're making it harder for yourself. And when he wasn't doing that and he was choosing to step around him and getting him to reset and turn, that was the right decision. Move around the ring, use your legs, get him to turn. Even that, he wasn't always executing perfectly. You see, when Vasyl Lomachenko is going to turn you, he'll do it in the midst of a combination or after a feint, whereby he's thrown something heavy beforehand so that you bite on that feint. In other words, he uses misdirection to step around you. It's a surprise. If he's going to do it mid-combination, another thing he'll often do is he'll use that lead hand to actually drop it on the shoulder of the opponent. And so he's got his forearm, as he's got his hand on your shoulder, he's got his forearm in front of their eyesight too. And he'll pull the shoulder slightly forward and then step around. So he affects your vision so that you can't really see where he's going. You've got a forearm or a glove in your face. He affects your construct, your balance, by just tugging the shoulder a little bit to use you as leverage to then step around. And then all of a sudden he's behind you. So he's using his balance and his foot speed and his footwork to get around you. That's elite level stuff. Joe wasn't always doing that. Joe would literally just pivot out and turn, or literally throw a punch. Often he wouldn't even do that. He would just lead with the step around, but then he'd come into the pocket and not exit the pocket, but not punch either. Now I understand if you're stepping around him and immediately you're going with another shot because you've taken that weaker angle, his weaker angle. I get that, but often he wasn't doing that. So he'd step around and then stay in the pocket. Why? That's not to do with a lack of ability. They were just choices he was making. Now, if you don't want to step around and go again and you're doing it to catch a breather, when you do step around, exit the pocket after that. Create some space. You don't want a situation where you're running consistently, because then it starts to look as though the other guy's just chasing you and you can't deal with the pressure. There is going to come a time where you have to hold your feet. Sonny Edwards, who was terrific on commentary last night, by the way, when he fought Mitolani, for instance, his movement was superb. But how often did he sit there and hold his feet and let go of his hands when he had to? And we've seen him do that consistently through the course of his career. And more recently, he's even been lying on the ropes, essentially, and inviting guys on and letting them work and blocking and catching shots, catching his breath and then going harder the following round and getting on his back foot again. So you have to vary it. You can't just run for 12 rounds. But Cordina didn't get the right balance, in my opinion. One of the things that I did love, or two of the things that I loved, he was lining up the backhand beautifully. Timing it, the distance control of it, it was brilliant. He couldn't miss with it at points. The other thing was the uppercut. We saw that Zelfa Barrett had that success against Rakhimov with the uppercut, and you saw that he was really fluid with it. And at times he was hitting the uppercut to the chin. At times he was hitting it to the solar plexus. I wanted to see him go to the body a little bit more frequently. You know, a lot of the times these sorts of pressure fighters that lean forward and come into you like that, one of the best ways to nullify them is to go for the body. You know, you go and see the way Floyd Mayweather would deal with pressure fighters, for instance. He would target the body a lot, and it would have a lot of success. And that's how he effectively dealt with Marcos Maidana in his second fight. So, you know, that would have been something that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Joe. There were moments in the fight where he was able to create that separation and look like a really good boxer puncher. But one of the things I also have to applaud him for is that when Rakhimov was taking him to hell, essentially, and he'd hurt him or he'd landed flush shots, he showed real bottle in there. You know, we spoke earlier today about Tank Davis making Ryan Garcia quit, and I'm sorry, that's how I see it. When you're this pretty boy and everyone's mugging you off about you're not tough enough, the one thing that you better go in there and do is bite down on that gum shield and say, you know what, I'm going out on my shield if I have to. I'm not going to walk out there and quit and let these guys question my heart. There's no way. That should be driving you. But people have this misconception that pretty boys can't be tough. Well, Joe Cordina doesn't look too dissimilar to Ryan, does he? Really, he's a similar sort of look. He's a pretty boy too. He showed a side of him there that showed real toughness. Yeah, you're going to land your big shots, but I ain't going anywhere. There was one particular round where he was actually in trouble, and I was watching it with a missus, and she was getting a little bit excited too, and she said, oh my God, why doesn't he just take a knee to buy those 10 seconds? He's not in that mindset. He's not thinking, yeah, let me take a knee here. He's toughing it out. And that's what I'm saying about Joe Cordina's mindset. Massive props to both guys. A terrific fight. Terrific skills on display from both guys. I would have liked to have seen Joe Cordina make some better decisions in terms of his positioning and not standing in front of Rakhimov so often. I felt he gave him too much of a target a bit too often, but it was a great performance overall. Now let's talk about Martin Bakole. He put in a performance last night whereby it was typical Martin Bakole, really. He was putting his hands together well. He doesn't really load up on punches. He's a guy that brings about a lot of volume with variation, and he's accurate in finding gaps. So he is essentially putting pressure on you with the amount of shots he throws. But they're not just blind shots where he's loading up with these big shots and he's trying to take your head off with everything. Sometimes he'll touch you. Other times he'll find a little gap and he'll just drop a little harder shot in there. He's very, very good at that, Martin Bakole. And he was able to take his opponent out. Igor Shevadzutsky, nicknamed the Hulk. We're just going to call him the Hulk right here. He was able to take him out in the third round. And, you know, Martin is a real handful. We know that. He has that one defeat at the hands of Michael Hunter, who is, of course, a fantastic talent in his own right. Since then, he's got a win over Kuzmin, a fight that I actually felt he lost, to be honest with you. But he's also got that fantastic victory over Tony Yoka, which never should have been a majority decision. It was a brilliant win for Martin Bakole. And Ben Shalom has been saying he wants to see him in there with Deontay Wilder. Now, Eddie Hearn has been mocking this and laughing at this and saying, okay, well, when I go to Saudi Arabia, I'll be sure to tell them that Deontay Wilder wants to fight Martin Bakole. And it was very funny. You know how Eddie can be charismatic and funny. But the fact of the matter is, Martin Bakole was number 1 with the WBA. Without fighting, Deontay Wilder managed to leapfrog him. He was at number 2 at the time. He then went to number 1. This is completely unfair. Well, guess what? The only way to settle something like that is to get them in the ring together. If Deontay Wilder decides to go for something bigger, like an Anthony Joshua, and they're able to get that over the line, of course you're going to make that fight. It's a legacy fight. It's a big money fight. It's going to take precedent, right? But if that fight does not happen, then I don't know why Eddie Hearn's laughing, because it's a perfectly legitimate opponent. Bakole is either a top 10 guy or just on the peripheries of the top 10 at the moment. That doesn't mean he's top 10 in terms of ability. You might think he is. You might think he's not quite there, but he's earning his shots. He's taking risks. On paper, he got that Kuzma win, which is solid, and he got a massive win against Tony Yoka. He deserves his opportunity. So I've got no problem with seeing that fight. If that is indeed a fight that Wilder makes, if he's not going to fight Deontay Wilder, or perhaps he wants to make Martin Bakole next. If he wants to fight AJ in December, he might want an interim fight. He's been out for a while, right? That Helenius fight was barely a fight. So he might be feeling rusty. Make it in the summer, right? I'd watch that. There was also a beef backstage between Martin Bakole and Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte was telling him, come upstairs away from the cameras. And Martin Bakole was telling him, I'm not a gangster, you just want to do it in the ring, basically. And then Dillian Whyte just went full on, just controversial like he likes to do. And he started to call him names. I won't mention the word that he was calling him because we don't want to trigger algorithms here on YouTube. But Dillian Whyte just being as entertaining as ever. The build-up would be brilliant between these two. They were shouting each other down at the lobby. And I was quite surprised, actually, to see how all the comments, pretty much, 99%, literally 99% of the comments, were saying, Dillian Whyte gets smoked, but Martin Bakole will batter this guy. Dillian Whyte's washed. I really do believe that people are jumping the gun with Dillian Whyte. I think that, I'm not saying Bakole wouldn't beat him. It's a great fight. I will leave my prediction for a technical breakdown video if that fight happens. I'm not mugging off Bakole's ability. Far from it, the opposite. But this idea that Dillian is completely chinny and he gets touched and put away by anybody that carries a bit of pop, I don't buy it. He's got a very good defense. Yes, he was knocked out by Povetkin. That was a monster shot that would have knocked out a horse. Any heavyweight eating that shot flush is going to sleep. I don't care who you are. Then he got knocked out by Tyson Fury, whereby, okay, he was caught with an uppercut, which many people don't feel landed 100% flush, but it landed, and Tyson Fury is a very big man, and he got caught and he got dropped. When he fought Jermaine Franklin, he was hurt at one point. Franklin's a very sharp counterpuncher, and he did land a lot more than just one flush shot on Dillian. Dillian was able to take them. So this idea that he's made of glass, I'm not ready to buy that just yet. And his defense is very, very good. It's underrated. A lot of people were saying, I thought he lost to Franklin. No, he did not. Go watch that fight again. Go watch some of the commentary. You'll see at one point at the end of one of the rounds, I think it was at the end of round 4, Franklin lands a shot that catches, he catches it, right? He catches it on the glove, Whyte, he catches it on the bicep or the elbow, and the commentator praises the accuracy of Jermaine Franklin. And I'm thinking, what? He didn't land any of those. So it's one of those situations whereby he was landing somewhere on the arms, the shoulders, the gloves, the wrists. He's sort of semi-catching a lot of shots, and he's getting a lot of credit for it, Franklin. And so personally, if I'm scoring it, I felt that Dillian Whyte was stopping the clean and effective punching for a lot of it, and he won the fight 8 rounds to 4. So for me, there's almost like an exaggeration in the demise of Dillian Whyte, let's put it that way. It's a great fight, and because Martin Bakole is not a one-punch knockout artist that just comes in there, seeks to take your head off, even if you are questioning Dillian Whyte's durability at this stage of his career, this is a sort of fight where Bakole will seek to put his hands together and let go of combinations and be quite methodical in breaking Dillian Whyte down. Dillian Whyte has got a terrific trigger counter and a wonderful left hook. So they will be exchanging and landing on each other. Don't sleep on Dillian Whyte. It's a great fight. I'd love to see it. If we don't see Bakole deservedly get a shot at Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, in the interim, or if Dillian Whyte himself doesn't get a major shot at a big name. I'm not saying it has to be a champion. He has to redeem himself and earn that, something that Hatman has pointed out as well. And I respect that. But his body of work, his CV, and that victory over Jermaine Franklin means that I've got no problem with Dillian going in there against the likes of Joe Joyce or Zhili Zhang or somebody like a Martin Bakole. It's fair to have him facing those sorts of guys, that tier of fighter. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about Martin Bakole. Let me know what you think about Whyte and how he would fare against Martin Bakole. And also the Joe Cordina Rakhimov'S fight. How did you score it? What were the technical elements that you felt decided that? And where do you think each guy goes from here? Would you want to see him fight Navarrete next? There's been talk of Cordina fighting Navarrete potentially. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.